Hey everyone, Nick Falato of the Big Blue Banter podcast here to break down some film on Azeez Ojulari, the Giants' second-round edge rusher out of the University of Georgia. After cashing all my Dramamine checks from the last video that we made, I promised to slow down the rewinding in this video. But if you would like to see that breakdown of Kadarius Toney, please check it out. It's on our feed. Ojulari was my second favorite edge behind Jalen Phillips in this class, and I'm pleased that he lasted to pick 50 and the Giants were able to select him after 2 trades down the board. The first 2 trades for Dave Gettleman in that direction. Ojulari had 68 tackles, 18.5 for a loss, 15 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, and 76 total pressures in just over 2 seasons as a Bulldog. He's on the shorter side, being 6'2", which typically isn't great for an edge rusher, yet he has the length of a 6'6" edge player. His wingspan is 82.5 inches, which is in the 95th percentile, and his arms are 34.5 inches, which is also in the 95th percentile of all edges. Ojulari has that low leverage advantage with his height while still possessing the elite arm length, which is rare to find, to be honest. For example, Giants' 4th-round pick, Ellerson Smith, is over 6'6", yet his arms and wingspan are considerably shorter than Ojulari. And I'm honestly looking forward to Ojulari's ability in this Patrick Graham system. As you'll see through this video, he has pass rushing upside, is a quality run defender, which is very important in Patrick Graham's scheme, and he has enough athletic ability to drop into short zones and cover. The Giants right now are dealing with a lot of injuries at their edge position, with Lorenzo Carter coming off of the Achilles and Oshane Ximines missing most of last season with a shoulder injury. If everyone is healthy, I think Ojulari could still be one of the 11 starters in week 1 of the NFL season. Let's dive into why. In college, Ojulari had success with one really effective pass rushing move that he employed quite often to take advantage of a lot of tackles at the collegiate level, and I'm going to show you that. It's a quick stab with his inside arm combined with a violent chop with his outside arm to get to hip, the half-man relationship, while dipping that inside shoulder to corner, get his hips oriented into the pocket. It's a move that he really did well with. It's a move that he got a lot of sacks with as well, and let's watch this first clip that showcases it. So we'll play it back, and we'll run through it. So he's off, as you can see here, not quite a 5 technique. He's in a wider alignment. Obviously, this tackle is paying attention. He's going to do a vertical set to compensate for the fact that Azeez Ojulari may be trying to win up that pass rushing arc with speed and bend. So you can see he's going. Now, this is the first part of the move. Right here, you can see it. Azeez Ojulari, stab. And he stabs with that arm right there. And that's to initiate contact, basically to split him in half, and it's to set up this violent chop move that Ojulari employs with that outside arm. And what that's going to do is force the momentum of this tackle forward and get his equilibrium all screwed up, as you'll see right here. Now look how compromised of a position this tackle is in. There's no balance here. His feet are way too close together. He's lunging and leaning forward. There's no way at this point that this tackle can execute the block effectively on Azeez Ojulari without holding him. So you can see Ojulari is able to dip that inside shoulder now, and you can see good bend here too in his lower half for him to bend around the edge and get these hips flipped and angled towards the quarterback. And he does just that, and look, the tackle could not keep him contained. His gate was way too open. And then he has to hold Ojulari to prevent a sack. And we'll run through this one more time. Stab, set up this. And it happens very fast. As he stabs, you can see, because Ojulari with those 34.5-inch arms makes that initial contact. This tackle hasn't made contact yet. And by the time he does, and he's trying to control center mass of Azeez Ojulari, by the time he makes contact, Ojulari has that violent chop keyed up. He employs it, balance screwed up, turns the corner, hits the quarterback. Should have been a holding call. Don't believe it was. We'll run through it one more time. Now we're going to see similar play here against the tackle. Similar move from Azeez Ojulari. And in both these sets, I think the tackle probably should have got a little bit more vertical depth, but let me run through it real quick. Finishes strong for the sack. Now let's break this down. Get him back. Starts wider alignment. This tackle is later in the game. He knows what Azeez Ojulari has already shown him. So he does actually a pretty good job anticipating that stab move, that long arm move that Azeez Ojulari loves to employ when he attempts to initiate contact. It's a setup move for that violent chop. And what does this tackle do? He catches it. He catches that setup move. He catches that stab arm. But again, that upfield arm right here still going to be a little bit compromised by this violent chop that Azeez Ojulari is already cocking up right now. And he's able to land that and break the wrist and break the hold. And again, you could see not the best positioning from this tackle. Feet close together, he's lunging a bit, and he does not have the depth to get up to the top of this pass rushing arc to cut off the angle of Azeez Ojulari. And Ojulari is just too quick and has enough bend to get around this edge. And look, Ojulari's inside shoulder is outside right now. He just initiated this hard club, and what he's going to do, he's going to bring that shoulder back around. You can see the bend in his lower half here. And I don't even think Ojulari is somebody who has elite bend, but he has bend. He has enough bend to get around tackles like this at the collegiate level, and he's going to be able to do that in the NFL as well. And you can see how quickly he's able to get that shoulder that was outside now back in front of him to get his hips angled at the quarterback. Finish strong. And we'll run through this again. Outside, stab caught, chop initiated, creates that separation, does not get too close to this tackle, and that tackle, his hips are already committed up here. It's so hard for him to cover the ground to get vertical, to be able to catch up to Azeez Ojulari at this point. At this point, he is beat. The only thing he could really do is try to get both of his hands to just shove Azeez Ojulari up so the quarterback has a place to step up into the pocket, but he's not able to do that either. Good play by Ojulari to finish strong for this sack. Here it is again, similar alignment. He's out wide, and this is going against Alex Leatherwood, a first-round pick by the Raiders. Stab initiated quickly, brings this chop. Breaks the wrist. He's not able to get the sack, but he's able to force a throw and an incompletion ultimately. It's a good pass rush move. And Alex Leatherwood is a much bigger, much longer type of player here. But Azeez Ojulari is able to still take advantage of him, get his hips committed a bit early, his feet stuck just a little bit, and once Azeez Ojulari is able to break that outside arm, there's separation there. And look, Alex Leatherwood is in no position to block him once that outside arm is broken. Look at his feet. Look at where his hips are angled. There's no way for him to get that depth to cut off that angle. It wasn't the best footwork, best set, I would say, from Alex Leatherwood. But still, it's a violent move by Azeez Ojulari. It's his go-to move. It's the move that he employs. And you know what? He had a good game against Alex Leatherwood, a player who was first-round pick. I don't really project him as much to tackle, left tackle specifically, or really even right tackle. I see him a little bit more as a guard because he's a really sound run blocker. But this is not exactly a scrub Azeez Ojulari is able to employ this move against. That's why he kept going to it. It's because it was elite. People see it as a slight when you say, oh, he has that one pass rushing move. But if you're a college football player and you win with that move often, then you're going to go to it a lot. I think he can find a way to build more pass rushing moves, convert speed to power a little bit better. And that's stuff we'll get into a little bit later in this video. But right here, this is able to create separation and put an NFL caliber offensive lineman in a disadvantageous position by using a move that you employ quite often. Leatherwood does not do the best of job protecting that outside shoulder, and you will see that here. Now, this play is a little bit different because the play action element halts Azeez Ojulari, as you'll see here. Look, there's the mesh point right here. Azeez Ojulari is not rushing. He's seeing if Najee Harris receives the ball, and then he has to execute whatever his run responsibility is. Once he notices that Najee Harris does not have the football, what does he do? Breaks the wrist of the outside arm of Alex Leatherwood, gets around him with speed, and is able to easily put pressure on Mac Jones. Like I said, Leatherwood is not doing a good job framing his blocks. If you look at his feet, they get a bit stuck and terrible positioning at that point. And good on Ojulari to sense the positioning, to see the vulnerability, and to use that outside arm that he uses very well to force momentum of Alex Leatherwood forward and cause those balance issues to lead to separation. And that's what you're looking for as a defensive lineman, as an edge player. Any way to separate from the tackle. And he just uses that quick little chop. He uses a swipe sometimes. He uses a club. Any way to just keep his chest clean and allow himself to create that separation, not get too tight to that tackle. And here we see him against the University of Tennessee. You can see this is a similar type of move, but there's a little bit of a ghost technique element to this. And a ghost technique is when you flash that long arm, when you flash that stab of the inside arm as an edge rusher, and then when you elicit a response from the tackle, you just dip in your lower half, use your flexibility to get that inside shoulder to the outside portions of the tackle and then win with speed and bend. So you'll see this here a little bit, only I think this is more of an adjustment by Ojulari. I don't think he meant to do this. I think right here, that little slap that you see from the tackle alters a little bit of Ojulari. It's a little bit of a miss, but then he realizes because the tackle committed his hips a little bit too early here, he could win up that pass rushing arc with just bend. And you can see he doesn't even really need to initiate contact with that inside arm. And the violent chop that he uses with the outside arm just totally sinks the tackle. And then from there, he just bends through the contact, gets really, really low, winning with leverage, forces the fumble, the Tennessee quarterback. We'll just go through this one more time, maybe two more times. You can see. Goes to initiate the contact. There's a slap there. It might have made contact. It might have not, but it didn't really matter because the tackle was in terrible position. Again, feet too close together, hips committed way too early up the arc, not enough depth in his set. Then Ojulari has that violent chop right here keyed up, makes contact, forward momentum of this tackle goes down like that. He's holding Azeez Ojulari, and Ojulari does a good job just bending through it, getting around the edge, getting the sack. And you'll see here, Ojulari is right down here. He just wins with speed. You could just say it's a speed rush, to be honest. Because right here, this is a really nice blitz right here from the University of Georgia. He's wide, and Stone Forsythe here has a guy sugaring the B gap right here. He has Ojulari, and then they're going to bring the blitz right here from number 27. So you can see Stone Forsythe really try to get depth early, has to commit his hips. Ojulari notices he's not going to be able to get to his set point, so he just dips the inside shoulder, is able to shield himself right here, and there's nothing Forsythe can do. Ojulari gets around the edge, and that just opens up the blitz for number 27. It's a Patrick Graham type of blitz call right here. Winning with speed. You love to see that. I mean, this game is a game of athleticism. It's a game of explosiveness, burst, and short area quickness. Change of direction. And Ojulari has a good first 3 steps up the pass rushing arc, and he also has good bend. And that's something that you want to see from your edge rushers. It's something that you need to see if you're going to want to win with speed and burst around the edge. Now, there's other ways to win. I think you can also win with just superior strength by essentially running through half of the tackle. If you get to the upfield shoulder quickly, and you don't have to win with speed and burst, you can just use strength to not make the pass rushing arc and the angle as elongated as it may have been if you're just trying to win with speed and bend. If you can run through the shoulder from certain alignments and use strength, crafty hand usage to manipulate offensive tackles, you can shorten the angle to the quarterback rather than making it kind of loopy by winning with speed and burst. And I think that's another way we see a lot of, not even just edge rushers, but defensive linemen win at the point of attack by using strength. And Azeez Ojulari flashes some of that on this rep against Tennessee. Like I said, he has the ability to convert speed to power. You don't see it as much on his film, but he wins with bull rush here. And you'll see it. And he's not even overly low for Azeez Ojulari. I mean, he's winning the pad level battle, no doubt, but this is just a horrendous rep by this tackle here, who looks like he's trying to set wide and then realizes Ojulari is going to run right through him, and he does not brace well for this contact. And Ojulari is able to get his outside shoulder into his breastplate and just drive back. And if you look right there, at that lower leg drive, he just keeps his feet churning and just throws number 64 to the side. Gets his hands inside, both hands inside, drives his feet, is able to help out with that strip sack, and then kind of gets to the football. And here we see a little bit more of just being able to bully a tackle backwards, and then he does a good job getting his hands up in the air to deflect this Kyle Trask pass. It just shows some of the ability to have enough lower leg drive to have an effect as a bull rusher. I don't think he's elite in this area by any stretch of the imagination yet, but he has flashed it on film in the SEC, which is important. Now, like I said, I want to see a little bit more speed to power conversion because he does employ excellent speed. He really does. I would love to see Azeez Ojulari, to be honest. Let's pause it here. I would love to see Azeez Ojulari, he's right over here, but I would love to see him use that long arm that he employs and then build that off of a more of a power move. And you don't see that as much. You see him use it as a setup move for the violent chop up the pass rushing arc. But if he employs that long arm move like Khalil Mack has in the past, and he's able to generate a lot of that lower body power and strength to drive through offensive tackles, I honestly think that will just really keep offensive linemen guessing, because now when he hits you with that stab move, is he going outside or is he going to try to drive through me? What exactly is he going to do? And it's not something I've seen consistently on his film. So I think there's so much room to grow with a player like Azeez Ojulari, from the sense that he can set up a lot of power rush moves off of the speed move that he's already shown tackles, and that would really just manipulate and play mind games with them. And that's something that I would really love to see him develop in this first year as a professional with the New York Giants. And on this play against Sadiq Charles, who is now on the Washington football team, you could see him do a little bit of this. Now, not with the long arm, but you could see him kind of sell an inside stab and then convert that to a bull rush when he realizes he doesn't have the angle that he wants to win outside against a long offensive tackle like Charles. So right here, if you look closely, it's kind of hard to see. You could see how he's looking like he's going to attack the half man, attack that outside shoulder like he's done so many times through this video. But then you see him use that inside arm, makes contact, and then he just realizes, look, I'm probably not going to get the angle that I want, so I'm just going to try to drive through this individual, and that's what he does. Gets both his hands inside. You could see how he has so much room to explode through this. He's in a very, very good position, low pad level, has the leverage win. You have this guy in an ability to be just put on skates here because, look, you could just drive his feet. He has a great positioning. And that's exactly what he does. He puts Charles on skates, and he's not able to separate, but there's an obvious hold there that doesn't seem to get flagged. But you'll love how he's able to just drive him back. I mean, I guess you could say credit to Charles for being able to resync his hips, and we'll just go through that real quick. He gets surprised here. Put on skates, but he's able to anchor down, resync his hips, and just uncoil them to unlock all of the posterior strength that he can have to absorb the drive and the power that Azeez Ojulari has in this bull rush here. But then he just holds and it doesn't seem to get flagged there, and the play just ends up being dead. But we'll go through that one more time to watch the initial get off. Look, is he going to make that initial stab and then try to violently chop here? And then doesn't like the angle he sees, goes right to the bull rush. Catches him by surprise. Good rep from Ojulari there. Should have been flagged, to be honest. Here we have Ojulari up here, and this isn't exactly the best look for undrafted free agent Brett Heggie, who's playing guard right here. This is just going to be a quick end tackle stunt, with Azeez Ojulari being the penetrator and the tackle being the looper. And I love the get off right here from Azeez Ojulari. You can see how he's selling like he's going to be going wide right here, but instead he's going to be breaking right through the B gap. And upon contact, Stone Forsythe is very, very tall, but upon contact, you can see how he dips that outside shoulder kind of underneath and lifts the tackle's arms upward to win that leverage battle and to be able to create that separation. And this transition is not handled well by Forsythe, who seems to be either anticipating the loop or thinking that there's going to be a blitzer coming from the secondary, maybe a creeper of some sorts. But you can see how Heggie does not get himself into position to handle the the pass off from Storm Forsyth, and credit to Ojulari to be able to just split the blocks and get the sack. In this portion of the video, we're going to see some run defense reps from Azeez Ojulari. As we know, Giant fans, Patrick Graham's defense, and really any defense, Patrick Graham's defense puts a high priority on these edge defenders being very sound run defenders and being able to set an edge, because last year Patrick Graham aligned in a lot of tight fronts, usually had the 4-eye technique to the strength in base situations. I'm talking about 4-eye technique to the strength. Nose tackle was Dalvin Tomlinson right over the top of the center as a 0 technique, and then there was usually a 3 technique to the weak side. And what that does is clog up the A and B gap. Not a lot of teams want to run up the middle against the Giants. What they always tried to do was run horizontally, and what that did was force the edge defenders to be really, really sound contained defenders, set the edge so it would spill the run outside to those secondary force and contained defenders, which were typically the defensive backs and those secondary pieces, those second level defenders. So being a good edge setter is very, very important, and that's why you see, I feel like, stronger type of guys like Hyler Fackrell coming in and being really, really important to the continuity of Patrick Graham's defense. Now, he's not there, and there's going to be somebody else who's going to have to step up, more than likely Azeez Ojulari, into a role like that. And I know the Giants like to rotate a lot of their edge players, so we'll probably see several different guys in there, but we'll see some of the things that Azeez Ojulari does well here in this clip. And I'm going to play it through, and then I'll explain it. So you see what Ojulari was able to do here. He's just off Alex Leatherwood's outside shoulder, a little bit off outside of a 5 technique. And right here, what he does, this is just step down rules right here. This is a squeeze technique, which you're about to see. What he's doing is he's following that block down. He's going to watch Alex Leatherwood block down. He's going to replace right there, and he's going to step down the line of scrimmage. And what he's trying to do is do exactly what he does. Take out that pulling backside guard. And what a squeeze technique is, it's a little bit different than a wrong arm technique. A squeeze technique is going to initiate contact with that inside shoulder on the outside shoulder of this guard, of this pulling guard. And what that does is, and he has to step down and keep everything narrow and tight, he keeps this rushing lane right here incredibly tight while having his outside arm free. So if Najee Harris wanted to bounce this outside, he would be able to come off of this block and make that tackle theoretically. But the goal here is just to keep everything tight and then not allow this pulling guard to get to his outside shoulder, because if he gets to his outside shoulder, then the guard can control him. He can either just push him inside or really do whatever he wants to. So you have to really lead with that inside shoulder and be incredibly physical and low about it. You have to win leverage. And you can see how Ojulari, look how physical that hit is. I love seeing this. Boom. Look at that. Low pad level. He's not moved. He stops that guard in his tracks. That is an excellent execution from Azeez Ojulari with this squeeze technique. And there's different types of techniques. There's the dent technique, which I know Don Brown in Michigan runs a bunch, where basically you stay square upon contact. And then there is the more popular, and I guess you should say more prevalent, wrong arm technique, where in this situation where Ojulari finds himself, instead of attacking the outside shoulder of the guard with the inside shoulder, he attacks the inside shoulder of the guard with the outside shoulder and basically inserts himself into that C gap, into the designed running gap, creates a log jam, a traffic jam there, and that usually results in the running back spilling outside to secondary force and contained defenders. It's really the same end result as a squeeze technique, just a different way of getting there. The end result is that spill effect. And just with the squeeze technique, you just want to look for a bunch of things, but 3 main things. You want to stay low, maintain that leverage. You want to be aggressive and attack not too far out to keep that rushing lane narrow, as you can see here. And then you want to keep that outside arm free, which you can also see. So let's resume this, and we'll play it one more time. Sees the block down, steps down, sees the pulling guard, tacks low. Love to see that right there. And this play is something similar. Sees the block down, steps down, sees the pulling backside guard, attacks low. And then look, just like we were just talking about, keep that outside arm free, able to make the tackle. And let's play that clip one more time because that's a really good clip right here. It's just what we were talking about. And again, flies in aggressively. Now his head's down, but sometimes that happens, but he's able to get his eyes up, still low, maintaining that leverage, winning that pat, and then he's able to just use superior core strength to readjust his body to just get that backside guard to just stand vertically straight up when he sees that the run is coming in his direction. Makes the tackle. And here Ojulari uses his length really well against Stone Forsyth. Love the inside hand placement there. Gets his eyes in the backfield. Sees the run. Is able to anchor down there. Not allow somebody who's much bigger than him to push him off the spot. Is able to work back inside and make a tackle. Not the easiest of plays. Not the flashiest of plays. But an effective play. And here's something similar. Only he's going up against a tight end. He's able to push that tight end vertical. Gets a shotgun run. Running back is the opposite side of where Ojulari is lined up. He's able to get into that tight end, just shove him back, and then make a play really quick. And you can tell that tight end is just incredibly disappointed with himself. Maybe he was expecting help, but it was no match for Ojulari. And now here, we're going to see him split a double team. And this is just instincts to me. This is instinctual. He has two guys that are coming down to hit him, I should say. And he feels the transition. So this tackle right here is going to initiate the contact right there. So he knows there's going to be a transition and a climb to the second level. So what he does is he gives some way, gets that outside arm. You can't see here, but he gets that outside arm on the backside of the second blocker coming in, and he's able to just assist his momentum going forward and swim over the top of him to get around him and make this tackle. Help make this tackle. These next two clips just showcase that he has some ability to drop into short zones. Now, he's this player right here. You have a 3x2 set. Florida loved running a lot of spread concepts, really use every inch of the field horizontally. There's some merit to that. And this is a boundary play right here. You see he's on the boundaries on that near hash right here with three receivers there. So, and then he's able to just see that there's the underneath route, and that's what he's looking for. He's looking for who's the underneath route. He's not worrying about the vertical. He passes the 2 and the 3 off, sees the number 1s coming underneath, and he's able to just flow with them. Now, there's nothing too ridiculous about this play, but I just wanted to show you that he did these little assignments at Georgia. Not a lot, not often, but he did them. And here we see him on the edge. Now he's to the field side of the edge. You see him on this hash, Kyle Trask, and his job is to watch the running back. He does that, and he just paces with him. Nothing flashy about it, but Georgia tasked him to do it from time to time, and I'm sure he's going to be tasked to do it in the NFL as well. This play is in the Peach Bowl, the last game that Azeez Ojulari played as a Georgia Bulldog against the Cincinnati Bearcats, where Georgia defeated them 24-21. Now, Ojulari is this player right here, and this player right here is James Hudson, a draftable prospect, somebody who was drafted, somebody who has a high athletic upside but is raw to the offensive tackle position because he used to be a defensive lineman. And Hudson was ejected from this game for a targeting penalty right before halftime, and then after that, Ojulari just dominated the performance and helped Georgia secure this win. He had 5 pressures in this game. He had 3 sacks, hit the quarterback twice, so he was really getting after the Bearcats quarterback, but it really happened after James Hudson exited the affair. And I think this game might have helped Hudson's draft stock, to be honest. And you'll see something here. Now, that move right there that you see, and you may have heard this referenced on Twitter, that is called a snatch and trap move. So essentially, what happens is the edge rusher or the defender engages with some sort of contact with his hands, and right here you can see it was a long arm and a stab, and then what happens is the blocker assists his momentum to the ground by breaking that wrist really fast and then falling on top of him and making him lose his balance. And right here, Ojulari is trying to use that stab that he does, but James Hudson flows with him well. You can see how he mirrors him up the arc. And Ojulari puts a little bit too much pressure into that inside arm, doesn't get to that violent chop. He sees that he doesn't have him beat like he had all of those other tackles beat earlier in this video. and good on Hudson to break the wrist, like Ojulari would break the wrist of a tackle, and allow him to fall to the ground. And I bring these up. This is somewhat of a concern, and this is the concern, quote-unquote, portion of the YouTube video, or just things that you want to see Ojulari improve upon. It's probably the better way to phrase it. But right here, you could see he doesn't counter off this. He rides with it a bit too far. See, he doesn't get this violent chop out. He's trying to just long arm and use bull rush, but he doesn't adapt to the move that James Hudson throws on him. He finds himself on the ground. Now here, we see, here we'll go through the play first. Doesn't seem like much. Now if you watched all those other clips before, what is something that wasn't common within most of them? And it was the alignment was outside of a 5 technique. And a 5 technique is a defensive player that aligns on the outside shoulder of an offensive tackle. Here, this is a 4-eye technique. As you can see, he is on the inside shoulder of the offensive tackle. If he was a 4 technique, he would be directly over the tackle. If he was a 3 technique, he would be on the outside shoulder of the guard. So that's how these things are kind of broken down. 5 technique is on that outside shoulder, and in all of those successful reps, which are all basically predicated on winning with speed up the arc by using that stab and violent chop move, they're usually outside of the 5 technique. Here is a 4 technique, and he attempts to kind of go outside initially, and then he tries to bull rush and run through. And I like how he gets his hands inside, how he's lower than the offensive tackle. And when he tries to go inside here, there's a helper there, but you can see there's just not really a move. There's not really a plan when he's rushing from an interior position, interior alignment. He notices he's not going to be able to win around the edge here. So he tries to run through, doesn't necessarily have the strength, and then just gets caught. And that's something that you see a little bit with his film sometimes. Here you can see him going up against Stone Forsythe, somebody who we've seen plenty of clips of throughout this video. And he's outside here. And he's trying to win up that pass rushing arm, get to that half-man relationship like he was able to do so many times previously in this video, and then break that wrist, as you can see. Watch. Tries to break that wrist, and he can't. And then he's just stoned. Forsythe gets his hands and his grips in there. And you can see how he's grabbing cloth, and that's something that you should do. If you can get your hands inside as an offensive tackle, grab, hold. It's not going to get called if you're not doing it egregiously. On the outside, if your hands are in the right position, that's not going to get called. And those are little things that you see sometimes with Ojulari's film. We're going to see it here again. Now, obviously, Trask gets the football out quickly, but you can see how he's not going to win up the edge there. And you can also see how he employed this move several times. Forsythe's expecting it. You can see how Forsythe's able to get up that arc. Quick feet for a big guy, to be honest. Makes contact with this inside arm at around the same time that Ojulari tries to use his length to stab. So he has contact. When he goes to make contact with his outside arm, Ojulari chops it down like he usually does, and then quickly, Stone Forsythe gets that other arm back up and then back towards the medium part of Ojulari, while also keeping his feet moving. That's a big part. Keep your feet moving. Don't stop moving your feet. Don't Alice Leatherwood over here. Don't stop moving your feet. Hopefully you guys aren't getting sick by me rewinding right here. But we're going to show it one more time before we get into this next one. And he can't bend the edge there. Now we see him against Forsythe again, and it's from a wider alignment. And look how Forsythe picks up that outside foot and just drives off this drive foot to be able to cut that angle off. And Azeez, man, he goes for the stab. But you can see Forsythe's in good position. Goes for that violent chop. But Forsythe knows that that's coming. And that's something that's going to happen. That's something that's going to happen when you really employ one pass rush move and you try to use it on every third down and in every situation. it's going to be anticipated. You have to play those mind games with opposing offensive tackles, like I was kind of saying before. You have to keep them on their toes. You have to have moves that you can string together. You have to be able to put a pass rush plan together that when one thing is stopped, you have another plan. You have another go-to move. You want to have 1 or 2 or 3 go-to moves. So the tackle and the offensive lineman never knows exactly what you're doing. And Ojulari, and I'm not knocking him for it, but he had that one elite move that he won with quite often that he didn't necessarily have to rely on other moves. I think that he can. It's well within his repertoire to be able to develop those moves. He can convert speed to power, plays with low leverage. He can get the counter moves. It just has to be something that he's forced to learn. It has to be something that he doesn't have one specific move that he'll always win with. And in the NFL, he's not going to always win with that move. He's not going to always win with a stab, violent chop, dip at that inside shoulder, win with speed, corner to the quarterback. He's going to have to kind of develop other things, and I think that he will be able to. And again, this is a 20-year-old. This kid is going to be the youngest kid in the roster, I would imagine, heading into training camp. He was a true freshman who was a captain at the University of Georgia, one of the most prestigious college football programs. There's nothing to suggest that this kid isn't going to be able to take to the coaching and develop himself into one of the premier edge rushers that we've seen in a little bit for the New York Giants. I mean, obviously, we've had Jason Pierre-Paul recently. We've had Lorenzo Carter, who I feel like is still a player that hasn't yet reached his upside. We've had, obviously, in the more distant past, it seems like at this point, it's the Michael Strahans, the Osi Umenyiors, and the Justin Tucks of the world. Now, Azeez Ojulari is a much different player than them, in a much different system than them, but I still think he can grow and he can develop, and there's still a high limit to what Azeez Ojulari can be, and he hasn't quite reached that at the college level. He was a redshirt sophomore who came out, which is something that you don't see all that often, but he's a talented player, and he's somebody that has already developed elite moves, but he can develop even more. And you love to see him be able to do that under the tutelage of Patrick Graham. Something I feel like is very, very possible, and I feel like he can only grow from here as long as everything works out with the knee and as long as he's able to find the field often and not get dinged up with other types of injuries. But this has been the Azeez Ojulari film review from Big Blue Banter. I am Nicholas Falato. If you guys want to kind of get more of our content, myself and Dan Schneier, we host the podcast, Big Blue Banter. We do all 22 reviews. We talk about the X's and O's. We talk about player evaluation. We talk about the team. We really go through everything that has to do with the New York Giants, from what we see on the field, the X's and O's, from the historical standpoint in the offseason. We do everything New York Giants, so please head on over to iTunes, Spotify, wherever you guys digest your podcast, and download Big Blue Banter. You guys will not regret it. I promise you that. Please also head to our Instagram, NY Big Blue Banter. We do a lot of good stuff there. We have a couple guys helping us out with that. It's a lot of fun, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, leave some comments. That would be wonderful. And also, just have a lovely day. That would be wonderful as well. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.